Weird science is the revolution.
It's Ultimate Spider-Man number 5, and it's going to be the ultimate, you said to me, it's pretty much Ultimate Harry Osborn. Is what we're going to have. It is written by Jonathan Hickman, guest art David Messina, color art by Matthew Wilson, letters by VC's Corey Petit and VC's Joe Sabino. That's weird. I've never actually seen where you have multiple letters, but I'm sure I have.
No, it's not very common.
No, I mean, you'll have like if you have 2 artists, you'll sometimes have 2 colors, 2 inkers, things like that. But 2 letters, very, very odd. But like you said, we're going to go into this 5th issue and we're going to get a lot of recap, but stuff we haven't actually seen through the eyes of Harry Osborn. And then a couple extra scenes, but what we get very little of is actually Spider-Man. We get some Peter Parker, but even that is a flashback type deal. And the Spider-Man stuff, I mean, you blink and you will miss it.
Yeah, it's 2 issues in a row with no Spider-Man. It's a big thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people gave us a lot of crap on our review last time, and I think a lot of people were, kind of fighting about it, not conflicted, but kind of fighting of. Was it a good issue? You're having a dinner party. It's Gwen and Harry and Mary Jane and Peter. They're going back and forth. It had some cool things. It had some things that kind of revealed the characters. It was a character type issue. This is as well. I don't know. I actually like this one probably a little bit better, but it still is the idea of these 3 books. This, X-Men, Black Panther, there is a pacing issue with these Ultimate books. I think that it will be remedied in a couple of weeks. Once we have the Ultimates, I think things are going to go boom. And there's a part in this issue that almost shows you that things are about to go kaboom because there's a lot of stuff happening. We're just not seeing it yet. But we do end up finding out the worst thing ever for Harry. There's, young Harry. He has his dad, Norman Osborn. Oh, my God, he's got all this, he's married to Gwen, his mom, all these things going on. And yet his dad, Norman's kind of a jerk. He always is, right? And he's always upset with Harry, and you always see Harry like trying and whatnot. We don't get it here, but from what we've seen with, the other issues and how he's treated with Peter and things like that, he seems to have it going on a bit. He doesn't seem to be like, oh man, that Harry is always off in Aruba doing things. He seems to be pretty serious. And what happens here will make it that.
Yeah, that happens after this.
The problem is, this is only months ago. If this was like 5 years ago, I still think he has, he's doing what he needs to do. He just is still a young guy.
Yeah, that's why Norman's like, hey, I'm waiting for you to become a man. It's almost there, but you're just not quite there yet.
It's kind of mean. Like, he ends up like,
of course
the way that he says it, though, he's like, where are you, Harry? There's a big meeting. Harry is late. And he's only a couple blocks away. And again, I'm getting that Norman is the kind of guy, like, you have that play where you have to be there at 9, but if you're not there by 8:30, you're already late. Like that crazy. And then
if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah, and he's there. I'm only a couple blocks away. I'll be right there. And he's like, "Hey, Harry, you know what's important? Oh, the Osborn name, yes. Hey, you know what my favorite memory with you is?" And Harry says,
"Oh yeah, it's when we played baseball. We were throwing the ball around,
throwing the catch and whatever." He's like, "No. That's a child's memory. That's your memory. The deal is, my favorite memory is the day you started acting like a man, like an Osborn. The problem is it hasn't happened yet." And that is so
It's his
mean.
last words, he said.
Last words, boom. And then it can never be taken back. I mean, that will always be
That'll haunt you.
The last thing that Harry heard from his dad. So he does want to become a man and wants to become an Osborn, but what does that really mean,
He's kind of forced into it. But do you see that light, that flash or whatever? That I guess it was attacked from orbit, maybe, or something?
Yeah, well, it maybe that's a glint. That, like almost like.
You don't think that's the weapon?
Maybe it's J.J. Abrams when he does, the whole.
Oh yeah, the lens flare.
The lens flare. It might be a lens flare, or because it does just like boom, like this big giant just blast. It doesn't look like a normal explosion. It does look like a controlled thing that is blasting. We'd have to see the deal, but I don't know. It looks like something the maker would do and stuff like that. But they're all led to believe that it was Tony Stark. But in that, the last words, and again, when he says, I want you to finally start acting like a man, like an Osborn. And does that mean good or bad? It is. He doesn't say hero, obviously, but Harry goes forward with this, wondering what he can do to become that man. And even by the end of this issue, we're not sure if the idea is it good, bad, or whatever, but he does become the Goblin, the Green Goblin, whether or not he realizes, in all the universes and things like that. But he also seems to be a little sus. So I think he's living up to his father's name, because that's it. That was all he heard from him. And then he was gone, and simply go a few weeks after that. And what we're doing is, pretty much playing catch up to where we are, where you end up having Gwen and Harry go, lawyer, let's see what we get. Let's see what we're taking over. He is going to take over Oscorp. Says you're already there with your hands on the wheel. That won't be any bit of a problem. But in the meantime, when they are told Oscorp will be yours, Gwen and Harry, they're given the playing card type deal and said, I have to deliver this. Somebody delivered this to my office. And it's the king.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting as your lawyer, you're getting your inheritance, you're getting a new house, new car, new company, and then you got to go see this guy with a card. I'm like,
and even when you're there, and
can I not do that?
You have this lawyer, and this is worse than
this guy looks shady.
You can get all these things, but you have to stay at your uncle's haunted mansion.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
Weekend. Like that sort of thing, and or it's just like, okay, here you go. You got all these things. Really sorry. I mean, this is weeks after, and he even says, I knew your dad. All these, great guy. By the way, after all this stuff, somebody gave me this weird playing card. You're going to have to go and see this mysterious person. I'm like, I don't think I will. I don't think I
pass
would.
On that, yeah.
Even then, I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, you can keep that. Just
you show up these guys have Uzis when you greet you. This guy's wearing an eye patch.
Yeah, really. And that's the worst. You have Uzis, you have like crazy guys with playing cards. Anybody with an eye patch, you get the hell up. You're having that great meeting with the Kingpin when he's nude in the song.
Yeah, were you surprised he was wearing pants? I was. I thought he was going to get out.
Like he was going to get out just completely
like a power
naked.
move. Yeah,
that is a hell of a power move. When he's there, okay. And this is the funny thing in the way that it plays out that I think Hickman does pretty well. Is that when they pad down Harry's let in and says to Kingpin, well, I'm here. Kingpin says, and right on time, just to show us that Harry has changed in a month. Like he already knows, like now he's got to take his father's place. He's not late now. Mm-hmm. And he's like, do you know who I am? And of course, you end up where Harry knows who he is. He says, you're Wilson Fisk, entrepreneur, business magnate. Man of influence, and on and on. Everyone knows this. And he's like, can you tell me what they don't know? Harry knows what's going on. He knows of the a little bit of the rumors, about that there are, protectorates, divided places, territories. And he thinks, and makes the Kingpin type deal. Mm-hmm. Says he knows that. And that's when Fisk gets out, should be nude.
Yep.
But then comes out and says, basically that there's this whole play with what's going on with all the, everything going down and with Stark and Stain Industries and things like that. Well, he doesn't really want that. He wants to sell it to Harry. And this is where you start getting things going forward where Harry is going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to look into what I have. It's very quick. I mean, the idea, he just goes and sees Fisk sits out of the, out of the sun and says, hey, by the way, I think it'd be great with the way I'm doing things and go, I want you to buy this. I'll sell this to you. Boom, boom, boom. And then
in real life, it would be like 2 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it goes from 2 weeks later, they're already cutting, plasma cutting through
a major
walls.
Company being sold to another one is a big, big deal.
And a huge thing, including the idea that one of the big parts of the Stark part was a terrorist.
Terrorist bombing. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe what you can say is, because of all the Maker stuff and what he set up and how Fisk is involved and all that it can be pushed through quick. I mean, maybe that is the play, but even then it feels weird what this is setting up because you end up where you have Harry, Gwen, and what is Doc Ock, Dr. Octavius.
The skinny version.
Very skinny. But it's funny when he has these welding goggles on and it looks more like Doc Ock. And they cut through this deal and again, everything is really quick. You end up where you go in and you see Iron Man suits. That they don't seem to be as excited as I thought they might have been. It's just like, look, let's turn on the lights. You have Doc Ock who's like, oh my God, there's an arc reactor. I always wanted to play with these. I'm still staring at the suits. I'm like, look at all these Iron Man suits.
I get to
like,
ride in one of those now?
This is crazy. I own this. And you do see that it is this crazy, lab. I mean, you do see the controls of how it would be. And they're just kind of like, okay, Gwen says we're going to have to, sign a NDA. And even then
super duper
NDA.
super
duper one, because now they're going to go and Gwen even says, it's funny, Gwen says, this is just stuff. I'm like, well, it's pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No. We want to get the real things, like the tech and all the info. So
the mailing lists.
Yeah. they jump onto the computers there, the Stain Stark computers.
Do you like that logo? I don't. Every time I read it, it says Stain Stork. Or Stone
Nobody
Stork.
wants Stork.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Stork.
Next thing you know, you're enjoying Star Trek. So you end up even that with the Avengers logo. It's supposed to just kind of.
I don't like that O around it.
I don't either. I don't like it either. So you end up in it. I think we're gonna have to have this Doc Ock. This guy signed an NDA. Oh, he already has one. No, he's gonna have to do the super duper one. And then in the weird, like everything is. And then Ock says, "Oh, you mean I have to sign something to play with all these new toys? It doesn't feel right." No. And then she's like, "Yes," and he says, "Okay, so where do I sign?" It just felt silly in my mind. And then, boom, we go 4 months later, or 4 months ago, the way that the time is catching up, and they're building the Green Goblin deal. So you know that Doc Ock has helped mainly build it, and he knows all about this stuff. So they're looking at it. There's talk of, well, this armor and the metal, you can't really paint it. You have to modify it molecularly to get this thing, to get it green. I'm like, and it felt weird to make it so that it's not as green as he wanted to be.
Wouldn't he just wear one of the other armors that's already sitting there? Why is he making another one?
You could have you actually at this point, but even then, Harry starts explaining things even later when him and Peter actually did go get that drink, of the idea that, Stark, he is the tip, but he kind of knows already that he isn't. You could have had a play with, I'm not going to wear those Iron Man. That's a costume that, epitomizes my dad's death and all the, but it's weird.
Yeah, but why did Doc Ock make it look like a goblin mask?
I don't know. It's like, but it was him, and it's so odd.
Yeah,
and
it's
they're gonna, weird. And then they have these bombs. Of course, the goblin bombs. They're more tech in this, but
and the glider.
Yeah, and then it's like, can't the suit fly? Well, I don't really want to test it too much. Like the idea is like, probably, but we have to do some R&D, so we're going to use the glider. It's all to just get you into this goblin deal. But then he says the big thing is the network. And like, what will it network? And they show, and it's a Stark Industries version of Cerebro. He goes on, and boom, it comes up, and you end up seeing everybody who is engaged in this super tech that they have. And he says, this was the tech a couple months ago. Boom, this is it now. And you see that this is what I was talking about earlier. The idea that tons of people now are coming online, heroes, villains, whatever it would be, are popping in, which is kind of cool, right?
It's weird, too, because I guess it's not really a map of how our world looks. It's different.
Yeah, and maybe that the weird play is this might just, probably if we look, it's probably just New York.
You think it's that zoomed in?
Yeah, I think that it might be like there's Long Island, and
that could be.
That makes it even crazier because it's not worldwide; it's just New York.
It's a lot of red.
There's a lot, and it goes from all the stuff runs on secure network that links to dedicated level 1 proprietary tech. There's a lot of talk like this.
Mm-hmm.
I said to you before, some of this it started getting like I had to reread a couple word bubbles. It was just kind of words together, but the overall concepts I do like. But the idea of there's more and more of this tech coming online, and that's where you end up seeing your little bit of Spider-Man. Remember when we had him, they fought the Shocker, and it was funny. I mean,
Shocker was messing around with him.
Yeah, and we had fun. Then that's a, ha-ha, idiot. And then that's where Harry, little do we know, really, that he came swooping in, and that he is following the tech. Spider-Man, Peter's just going out trying to stop people from doing bad things. You have Harry here who looks like he's going to start trying to search out what the tech is, what this is going on. And he does go to the Shocker and realizes like, well, where did you get this tech? What happened with it? I don't, and says, you can keep your money. Like he had just stolen a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Got away from Spider-Man by duping him, but he says, you keep the money. I just want to know, where did you get those gloves? And you end up where this Shocker ended up getting lucky, walked into a room where it looks like maybe the original Shocker. He was given the tech by a hologram Tony Stark, just like we know how Peter got, hey, you have the spider, here's this thing. And
same thing, except for this guy has a heart attack and dies.
This guy seemed to not like it. Seemed to die. And he just grabbed, this was the idea of the Shocker. These gloves is like, oh, well, I was going to rob this guy, but I'll grab these gloves and get the hell out of here. But it is one of those where Harry is, I think, more even concerned with the idea of how he got them, like we said, about this hologram. And I sold this and I grabbed it. But you end up where, again, the Shocker, he tries to wallop Harry. He doesn't even knock him off the glider. I mean, not even.
It was weird. It was hard to tell what was going on there.
Yeah, it was weird.
He looks like the Incredible Hulk a little bit, this guy. Huge.
But he's like, is that supposed to hurt? And he's like, I'm sorry. And then you have Harry just knock him out and go. Doesn't take the money. The money just flies around and goes. Well, then that leads to 2 months ago. That's when you had both Spider-Man and Harry, Green Goblin, they took down Bullseye. And then, hey, you want to go get a drink. Now, when we said that at the end of the one issue, we go to the next and it's dinner party. We didn't really get much of the have a drink. And we said there seemed to be something in between that they had been working together.
Because now they're best friends.
Yeah, because all of a sudden they were. And so this is kind of the let's talk about what's going on and things. And they do. He says, Peter, what are you up to? What do you do? What do you do for a job? He says, I'm a photojournalist. And are you married? Yes, I am. You too, right? Yes. And he says, do you know about me? And of course he says, everybody knows about you. You're probably the most well-known person in the city. Everyone knows your name, what you do and whatnot. And you almost get that play of, when they said, when Kingpin said to Harry, like, okay, that's what people know. Do you know anything else? But Harry's actually going to tell Peter. Peter, again, when we get him, it's always these side glances. And he, like, how many times in these 5 issues is the look of Peter, he's pulling back with this, like, confused look on his face. It's always something like that. It's very odd. But says, do you know anything about, the real things? What's really going on? And then really just says, hey. Because remember, he was able to turn off the Spidey suit, too. He knows it's Stark-stained stuff. But he says, tell me something. Did Tony Stark appear out of thin air and give you the suit? He's like, yeah. I like the idea where Peter's like, probably like, yeah, kind of. Like, yeah, I guess with that. And says, did that happen to you? And then Harry says, no. So again, the idea where when this comes down to Tony Stark wanting to make sure this guy has this guy has that, and all this stuff, Harry was not involved. Like, Harry wasn't supposed to be part of it.
He owns the company, so I guess that's how.
So even then, maybe at a point like Norman might have been, that whole deal, but it ends up being Harry has done it himself, which kind of, I don't know, it fits Harry.
Yeah, I mean, Norman was considered one of the bad guys, I think, obviously. So he's working with Kingpin and stuff, and Stark knew that. So.
Yeah, so however this might have played out, but he's definitely, the route he's gone is a little different. But he says, yeah, Stark, and this is the thing that I kept, it was like a brick wall, the idea that why would these guys, Peter or Harry take tech from a guy that is supposed to have killed, say, Aunt May or his mom and dad, in Harry's instance. But he says, I don't think Stark really did that. I don't think that it was on the up and up. I think there's more people above him pulling the strings. And remember, that's what Bullseye said too. Bullseye, before he got taken down by both of them and the glider took Bullseye away, Bullseye said, you guys are jokes. You don't know the real thing. There's everything above and whatnot. I think that's obviously what Harry is way more concerned about anything. Now, he's not concerned with money or being a hero that way, but he wants to find out the info. But you end up with, how he says, why did Stark pick you? Peter, why do you think it? He said, well, he said that I had a different life and that I kind of felt that and I was supposed to be a hero. And that's what I think Harry really wants. Harry wants to, make his dad proud, even though his dad's dead. So that's kind of like, hey, let's do what heroes do. And he's already doing stuff that heroes don't do because it looks like he has Bullseye and he might be torturing him. I mean, he's getting info. The guy's bad, but it does look like, Yeah, he's already stepping over some lines. And that's where the whole deal with Harry, Norman, all that is, where do you go and where do you become the hero that becomes the villain, or can you pull it back? But you end up where he wants to know information. And Bullseye was like really, just really yelling things before and telling, and he doesn't seem like he's trying to pull things that much back. But, he's even giving him, hey, let's see what happens. Are you a hero and all that? It's a weird conversation at the end, but
talks about pulling eyeballs out. And stuff.
Yeah. He's talking about how his master lost an eye, so they pulled their eyes out. Your dad this, and what you don't know what you're dealing with. And this sort of loyalty is beyond you, and are you going to be able to sleep at night? Like, it's all the crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so at the end, he's like, I'm going to see, and says, am I a boy or a man? Am I a hero or something else? I guess we're going to find out. And there's a hero or something else. I think he's going to be something else.
That's like his whole thing now. He's haunted by his dad's last words, so he's going to...
Yeah, and I think one of the things that may happen where he's mad, when he asked Peter, why did Stark come to you? And Peter says, he came to me because he said in what I was supposed to be in this life as a hero. I think Harry's like, why didn't he come to me? Like,
yeah. Oh, that's in the back of his mind for sure.
Yeah, like he's always not good enough, or he wasn't supposed to be that or this, and he's going to become what he needs to be, I guess. But right now, I still think of him as a hero. It just ends up like it might be maybe not so much.
It's more of maybe a vigilante or a mercenary or that kind of thing. Anti-hero.
I mean, we haven't seen that many people. We get, Harry and Peter in this book pretty much trying to... You end up with Black Panther and all that, and even the X-Men, like nobody's really, Harry's the only one looking in or knowing about the big picture thing. The idea that there are these people that are controlling the world and they're evil and they're doing this. He actually knows way more, and he's the one going for it. So I think that makes things a little more interesting.
Yeah, he's gonna clash with Peter at some point over ideals and all that stuff.
I mean, it's gonna be the point where it seems like how all the things always go, where Peter's gonna say you can't cross that line. He's gonna say, bull crap, I'm gonna cross the line because my dad, I'll never get to hear. Like, my dad will never be able to be proud of me now because this, and I'm gonna take over.
And money doesn't mean anything to him. Power doesn't mean it. He already has all that, so it's...
Well, that makes it good, though, against the up. But yeah, it's going to be... It might get ugly. It might get ugly pretty quick. But like I said, I like this more, I think, than last issue, but it still ends up where it's still not going forward. Everything feels like it's in this, like, let's gather some info. Let's get some little character moments. And this one, again, after a dinner party, to then go back in time to get towards the present to fill in a couple of cracks or whatnot, it's still good. But we haven't had May. We haven't had Spider-Man. We haven't had the things that I really like, the family and that sort of thing. Full family deal is what I want. We're not getting that either. But what would you give it?
I mean, like you said, it's better than the last issue, I think. And you said we got a lot of crap for that one, so I'd give this one a solid 8, I guess.
I'm going 8.
It's a fill-in artist, and Marco Cicchetto is back next month.
And David Messina does a pretty decent job. It's a lot of talking heads. It's a lot of talking heads on suits. So it works out. But yeah, I just hope that once you start going and everything picks up with, I said it from the beginning, that I think that the Ultimates will be the one that ends up, because that's going to be, hey, everybody in this world, there's heroes, boom. And then people start coming out of the woodwork. And we see there's a ton of tech and whatnot. And if that fully means just tech, or if that means fully, these are the people who Tony went to boom, 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 then that's huge. So that'll be pretty cool.
Weird science is the revolution.